Welcome to the wild woods of central Maine. We're here.
Is that you going live? Is that what you're? Is that how you're gonna do? I would be super low energy.
Hello. Hello and welcome to Thoughts for Your Thoughts.
Today on Handgun Public Radio,
Sponsored is funding is obtained by the Patriot Patch Company Foundation.
viewers like you, and a generous grant from the federal government.
Oh God, people didn't come here for this, did they?
Now, and we need to have segments that has like ambient noise behind it and all that. Like this is audio, not visual. Video. We don't ambient noise is just distracting people. Stop it.
Hello and welcome to Handgun Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Machat from the wild woods of central Maine, and this is your home for all the news, information, and discussion in the handgunning world. This week, we discuss guns that you rarely find used and guns that you can always find used. So as always, Handgun Radio is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network, and please check out the Patriot Patch Company for their awesome patches and other high-quality items. Visit patriotpatch.co for more information. And when you sign up for the Patch of the Month Club, you also get stickers and the artist proof rendition that comes along with it on a postcard showing you the original drawings that went into making the patch. So be sure to check that out. Shop Amazon using our affiliate link, and please help support Handgun Radio. Head over to firearmsradio.tv/pledge and click on HGR. There are a bunch of different pledge levels over there, and we really appreciate it. Weird, nice to have you back from the Windy City.
Back from the Windy City. Yeah, but that was a great show you did with Jordan, by the way. I actually just listened to it today.
TJ was texting me. He was very, very mad because he would go to do his work and then he'd shut it off for a second and he'd come back and Jordan would be like, oh, and I had this gun. He's like, stop making me want guns. So Jordan was influencing TJ very nicely.
Yeah, well, we're not influencing TJ. That's all we talk about is cool guns. TJ. I mean, I think TJ needs some influence in his life. He needs some moral character. Captain
Bullet says it's a PBS drive. People are listening to our rantings. TJ was very upset by that. He needs because now he has like 10 new guns on his list.
Only 10?
Only 10.
My guns I must have list is like in the thousands, I would assume.
No, I said 10 new. I didn't say that was all he had.
I mean, at that point in time, it's just a drop in the bucket.
So I'll let you go first because you have a way more exciting week in review than I do. So what happened to you?
I mean, I've got like several weeks. I mean, really, this week was just me coming home and being sick. And just struggling to get my podcast up and ready for air. But before that, as people saw in the Facebook group, I bought a new gun. I think I might have talked about it like the week before on the show. I walked into the gun shop and there was a bunch of cool guns, and I'm like, oh man, there's a bunch of cool guns here that I kind of have the wantsies for. And one of them was an M&P 45, which I'd been looking for a while. And I finally just said, I was going to the range and I said, you know what, let's swing by the shop and just let's see if they'll haggle a little bit. Haggled. They took a little bit off the price, which went from, you know what, it was a reasonable price. The guy said to me as I was asking if they could do anything about the price, he goes, this is a pretty good price right now. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm still saying so. Let's see what you got. And he went down a little bit and I said, yep, we were taking it. And I was bluffing anyway. If he'd said, no, I really can't do anything with that. Cool, I'll take it anyway. But got a few bucks extra that I spent entirely on ammo because I didn't expect to be shooting a 45 that day at the range. and I'm not gonna just take the gun with me to the range and just leave it there. So yeah, it's an M&P 45 first generation. So it has got the horrible trigger. Though I'm starting to think about it, I think I'm going to end up keeping the stock trigger in this gun just because the M&P's triggers are terrible, but they're not so terrible that something needs to be done about it. It's just a cool gun. And actually also this is a lot of people always talked about like the Glock 21 and what a horse pistol that thing is. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I carry a 1911 and it's actually a little bit smaller than a 1911 in its overall design. But geez, I really kind of forgot how thick a double stack 45 is. This gun is, I mean, you could crouch behind it.
I mean, I remember the first time I had not handled any of the upper framed Glocks like in 45 auto. And the first time I saw one, I was like, oh my God. Like, it is markedly bigger.
Yeah. And, but the end result for this gun, besides it being just a double stack polymer striker fired 45, which I've been wanting a double stack 45 for a while. Especially given that I live in Massachusetts. So a 10 round 45, perfect. I don't need to worry about any restricted magazines or anything like that and have full capacity. Is I want to turn this into a bear gun. I want this to be a gun that I can carry with me when I'm hiking in the woods of central Maine, when I'm worried about maybe accidentally walking in between a sow bear and her cub, or a bull moose decides that he wants to skewer me with his horns. That I want a handgun that's light enough that I can lug around, but heavy enough that I could put down some of the more troublesome animals that you can find in North America. And by that, I'm going to get a 460 Roland conversion kit. I think we've talked about 460 Roland on the show, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I'm trying to find the
essentially 460 Roland, for those who aren't aware, is by the way, and the kit, as far as I believe it's Masterpiece Arms that's making them. The kit to convert it costs way more than I paid for this gun, so it'll be a little bit. I'm not quite ready to double the cost that I just shelled into this gun immediately for something, and I need to do a little more research just to make sure. Again, I'm not getting myself into any trouble here.
What's the barrel length on that M&P?
It's the 4.5.
So out of a 4-inch barrel on ballistics by the inch, they're getting a 230 grain jacketed hollow point at 1124 feet per second.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, it is 44 Magnum power level. It's pretty much identical to most of your standard 44 Magnum loads.
And how many rounds in the mag?
10.
Wow.
So essentially what it is it's a slightly longer, it's the parent case is 45 ACP. It's a slightly longer case, but the bullet is seated lower in, and the case itself is strengthened up so it can take the higher pressure that it's being loaded to. So it's essentially an ultra mega plus P 45 ACP. And it's got really just that extra case like this, just so you can't accidentally chamber a 460 Roland cartridge into a standard 45 ACP barrel and grenade your gun. But yeah,
now, stepping up to something like a 45 Win Mag, you just have to have a longer front to back on the grip, right?
Yeah, a 45 Win Mag's a bigger gun.
Right.
The thing that I like about this particular cartridge is that it is almost the exact it is the exact same size as a 45 ACP, which means you're not like, if I was say the conversion kits for Glock 21s to Guncrafter Industries 50 GI, which is a little bit of a different beast. It's not identical to 44 Magnum. It's similar power level. But for that one, you're essentially converting your double stack Glock into a single stack gun. So you're losing nearly half your capacity. With this, you keep the capacity. It's still a 10+1 gun. It's just a 10+1 gun in essentially 44 Magnum.
I'm looking at load. Oh my God. I'm looking at load data right now. Remington jacketed hollow point, 185 grain. You're pushing it. The highest load data they have here is 1,489 feet per second. I mean, that's moving.
And I looked the other day, and given that I've also got a severe onesies for a 454 Casull, like sticker shock for ultra Magnum, hipster rounds doesn't scare me too much. But I believe it's Ammunition to Go actually stocks some 460 Roland. And let's see, 460. Yeah, they got some 460 Roland on stock. They've got some Corbon Hunter, 20 rounds, 230 grain jacket of hollow point ammo. They're saying 1250 feet per second. It doesn't say what the barrel length is for that, but they're only asking for 21.95 for a box of it, and they've got 25 in stock. So, man, that's actually not unreasonable for, a little bit over $1 a round for something as boutique as this.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
And how was your trip?
My trip was good. My trip was great. As you said, how are you enjoying Chicago? I said, I don't know. I grabbed a shuttle from the airport, which is in O'Hare Airport is in Chicago, and to the O'Hare Hyatt Hotel, which is where the conference was held, which is in Rosemont, it's just outside of Chicago. And so I spent the entire weekend outside of Chicago.
You didn't have any desire to go into the city and check it out.
I really didn't have time. Everything was all going on, and there was way too many cool people to hang out with in the hotel.
So what did you do there? How did it go? Everything.
So it's a conference. So it's different than the NRA annual meeting and convention, where there's stuff to see and you're spending a lot of time walking around. Instead, essentially, they have a ballroom done out with just tables and chairs, and you sit at the tables and chairs, and speakers come up, and it's just there's speaker after speaker after speaker. It's essentially like sitting in one panel room and just waiting the whole, just sitting out the whole convention in a panel room. So it's a little bit different in that sense, and probably not for everybody in that instance. I really enjoyed it because you're just hearing lots of people talking, and it's all about the Second Amendment, and it's a Second Amendment Foundation, which I'm madly in love with. Got to meet a ton of cool people, and that's how that goes. It was done over a long weekend.
Nice. Aaron, bring up Aaron's.
Thing. Yeah, that's the bombshell for that, especially concerning me, is that Aaron Paulette, my co-host on the Assorted Calibers podcast, and she is the founder of a group called Operation Blazing Sword, which is an LGBTQ friendly training group. Essentially, people that are willing to donate their time to help people who are from the queer community to learn more about guns and shooting, so that they don't become a victim like the poor people in Pulse did. They can look up this list and find themselves a trainer that they know will not judge them, will not be concerned about their lifestyle, and will just teach them the basics of firearms fundamentals, and point them in the right direction towards, getting their carry permit if that's what they want, or answer any questions they may have. So that group has now merged with the Pink Pistols, which I think many people should be aware of, which is essentially they're kind of the NRA of the LGBTQ community as far as guns go. It is essentially small activist groups in different states, but they were all kind of separate because when the group was first formed, they didn't want there to be a national members list to be subpoenaed, because at that point in time, people were still concerned about being gay and possibly being outed. That's not as much of a concern these days, though that's not changed. But now with Operation Blazing Sword being merged with them, they now have a national face. So also it could be a hand in glove group of all right, now that you've learned to shoot, now you realize that, maybe you don't dislike guns the way you thought you might have before. There's a lot of people in the gay and queer community that are anti-gun and have been told that a lot of stuff that maybe isn't true about firearms. They might then go, oh, well, I guess I am into this stuff. Well, you know what? You want to meet some more people that are like you. Well, there's a local chapter here, or Operation Blazing Sword can help you form a chapter in your area.
Excellent, and congratulations to Aaron. I know I was not obviously there, but you immediately texted me about it, and I was very excited to hear that, so I couldn't wait to share it.
Well, it's just a huge deal. It's really made a very, very large Second Amendment support group for the gay and queer community, which is something that I think is really something that the community needs. There's groups for every other group that you might think of. I mean, we've got the Jews for the Jews for the preservation of firearms ownership. You've got various black groups. I don't know. I actually, do you know there's any Hispanic firearms groups out there?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. There's got to be. There's got to be. But there's a ton of different groups. There's tons of women groups like Second Amendment Sisters. It's just any sort of subcategory of shooters. There's a group for them. But there hasn't really been that on such an equal level for people who are of gay or queer. So I'm super proud for that. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's going to do nothing but help us.
So my week in review, not nearly as exciting. Like I said, I do want to talk about the Glock 45. It's not a 45 though. Weird. I'm sure you were pretty excited when you first saw that.
Oh yeah, I heard it. I'm just like, oh, is it another 45?
Nope. It's basically a Glock 19X that is in black color, normal Glock color with front slide serrations.
Yeah.
Is there really anything else different?
I mean,
I'm trying to see.
There's some internal. There's a few like slightly different internal stuff. Short answer, no. As far as I'm concerned, no. Let's see. Oh, Glock just revamped their website, so they don't have that nice little chart anymore. Is that? Yeah. Oh shoot, they just changed it over. I was gonna go over. I did a quick search on it. I couldn't find it. It's been going all over Facebook. On the Glock's just trolling people now because you got the the Glock 22 has always been referred to as the Glock 40, but because it's 40 caliber. But no, it's not 40. It's not 40. It's a Glock 22, but it's also not 22 caliber. But there's a Glock 40 now, but that's 10 millimeter. And there's a Glock 45 and it's 9 millimeter. There's what's a Glock 32? Is that one of the 380s?
I think it's 357 SIG.
Yeah. The Glock 32 is 357 SIG. It's just all
I would love a Glock and 32 auto with like a 20 round magazine. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be kind of cool.
Like a Glock 17 size or even Glock 19 size. You know how many 32 autos you could fit in that magazine?
Well, that is an absolutely interesting idea because we've got we got like the Smith & Wesson Shield EZ, and I know the SIG 250. There was a 380 version of that, but there's a bunch of full size guns that are Ruger has the what is it, the LC 380? What was the LC 9 but scaled down to 380?
Yeah, LC 380.
And those are all done in the idea that you've got lower recoil, but it's still got the lock breech system. So that's going to soak up a ton more of the recoil. So the recoil is going to be a lot easier, and manipulating the slide and working the gun is going to be a lot easier. So that's great. And certainly a 32 gun would do the exact same thing, but idea of switching to a smaller bullet and upping the capacity. I mean, essentially that's what people have done with the little sub caliber PDW rounds, like the 5.7 by 28. You know, where you got the FN 5.7, but that's a gigantic gun. But a 32, yeah, you could kind of do the exact same thing. Got to worry about rim lock though. Has anyone made a double stack? Oh, the CC Scorpion, the VZ61. Yeah, that's a double stack 32.
It's only a semi rim, so it's not as pronounced as like a full rimmed cartridge, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the issue they ran into a lot of the time with head spacing. They figured, no, that's 38 Super. 38 Super head spaced on the case on the rim at first, and then they realized making it headspace on the case mouth would increase accuracy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guns that have different options for headspace, like the 357 Sig that we were just talking about. There are some guns where they headspace on the shoulder of that cartridge. There are some guns that headspace on the case mouth.
So, and then also, something I noticed on the firearm vlog, the Tornado Technologies Oxy 22 Micro.
Oh man!
Speaking of small guns, I love suppressing small 22s and 32s and 25s for that matter.
We're both James Bond fans. Let's just get down to it. The idea that James Bond pulls out his PPK with a suppressor on it, but
except this thing's like the size of a little tiny, like one of those little silver medicine bottles. Remember that medicine bottle suppressor? Who did that?
Oh shoot, I forget.
Was it Silencer Co?
I think so.
The pill bottle, as it was called, had a rubber wipe, I think.
Yep. This one's got wipes in it. I know that. I couldn't tell if it's a wet or a dry suppressor. I got to imagine that size. I bet it's wet. So you're probably putting like wire pulling gel or something inside of it. What's that?
Gemtech, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gemtech. It looks very, very similar to this.
Geez, does it even have a baffle? It looks like it just got one giant chamber inside of it. But it's designed to be shot with a wipe. So
yeah, wet wiped suppressor.
Oh, okay, so it does say wet.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you would fill the look. Yeah. So it looks like it's got like just a big void behind the end cap. So essentially the round exits the gun, goes into the blast chamber, then enters the expansion chamber, which is filled with probably wire pulling gel or Vaseline or whatever you have. I don't know that much about running wet suppressors to know what stuff's good, what stuff's not good, what works, what doesn't work. But then it goes through that, and that's going to dissipate a lot of the heat and and slow down a lot of the gases, and then it's going to poke a hole through your wipe, and away it goes downrange. That does look a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a comparison of like how loud that actually is.
It's probably still fairly loud. You can't make something that small and have it be super. I mean, think about just how loud your little Taurus is. Have you ever shot that without ear protection?
It's not that bad.
Yeah. I still just remember my first time shooting. I was shooting a 22 carbine for my very first gun I had ever shot. And I'm shooting this and I'm just like, geez, it doesn't sound like it's making a lot of noise. And so I kind of moved I was wearing muffs. I kind of moved my ear muff a little bit off my ear. Like, geez, that's not hurting my ear at all. Finally, so I took them off and let a round go. And then I just had them around my neck and I'm shooting it. It's like, oh, this isn't hurting my ears at all. There's no need for me. And then my buddy pulled out a little H&R teeny tiny revolver. And he loaded that sucker up with those exact same 22 rounds. And I said, oh, this isn't going to be a big deal. Bam! Ah, that hurt. He goes, oh man, I thought you were ready. I said, I thought I was ready.
Oh man. So what was your drink segment this week?
So again, going back to Chicago, I mean, I'm just having a, what is it? The Firewalker Black made by, Grand 10 Distilling in Boston. We talked about that one, didn't we? I'm trying to remember.
I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got chipotle peppers and cocoa nibs, and it's aged in a bourbon barrel, and it's friggin' delicious. But the guys from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns were there, and we actually recorded a joint show. So come tomorrow, if you're listening to this on YouTube, and otherwise it's already out, you will hear we actually did a joint show with those guys in their hotel room, and they had quite the bar set up. And I've got a picture of the bar. You've seen it.
Yes, I have.
Oh boy. But the star of the show, as far as I was concerned, is they had several bottles from the Blom Brothers Distillery in Galena, Illinois. One of which was something called Hellfire, which they had made by just putting a whole bunch of different hot peppers and black peppercorns into a vodka and made an infusion out of that, and it was delicious. But they also had a standard gin and a barrel aged gin that were really good. So yeah, and they said the distillery tour of that place was outstanding. They've got lots of geeky stuff all over. Like they got a flux capacitor stuck on one of their stills. So it's that kind of place. And they had some grains that evidently had gone bad or they couldn't use. And then there was a picture of Luke Skywalker from Empire Strikes Back going, no. So that's grains you can't use if Luke Skywalker's saying no.
All right. So with that, we'll head into the main topic: guns you always find used and guns you rarely find used. So Weird, this was your idea. So why don't you give us the lowdown on what you thought about when you thought of this topic?
So I was just thinking about, so let's just go right to it. There are two guns that I am madly in love with that are my personal connection that I managed to buy used. I try to buy used whenever I can because guns don't really wear out, so to speak. You're pretty much getting, I mean, I just picked up that M&P 45. M&P 45s, like every store in Massachusetts has an M&P 45. I can get the first gen, I can get the second gen, no problem. But I want to get it used. Let somebody else have used up let somebody else use up some of the value of it and let me get it a little bit of a cheaper price, and the gun's going to be pretty much the same quality. And so, but there's some guns that you kind of, if you want one, you kind of got to buy it new. And one of them was my Smith & Wesson 617, that 22 10 shot full size revolver. That gun, like, I was ready to buy new, and I had the money all saved up, and they're like, we got a used one. What? That's the only used one I've ever seen on the racks. The other one is my Smith & Wesson 1911 SC. I've seen a couple of them used on gun forums, but you don't ever see them at gun shops. These guns just don't change hands very often. And that got me thinking about, all right, guns that are hard to find used. Also realized that there are some guns that you're going to pretty much always find used. You've got your pick of them at used.
So let's start with the rarely found used. I included my friend Greg has the Smith & Wesson 422 22 long rifle pistol. It's got the weird slide that's only half of it recoils and stuff like that, but it's a fantastic gun. It's kind of like the analog to the Rugers, the 2245 and your standard models.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see them used a lot. And when you do see them used, you see the stainless model, the 622.
Yep.
But the 422, you rarely find it because they made a bunch of them. So they were produced for quite a while. So I got to assume there are a bunch out there in private hands, but maybe the gun's just that good that people don't want to sell it. I just don't see them. I don't think I've seen another one used other than his gun.
Well, I think we could kind of lump it in with the next one on the list, which is the full size 22 revolvers. Right. I just think once you get your hand on, because a lot of people will see a 22 full size revolver. Like you look at an M&P 9 and an M&P 22. So the pretty much the exact same gun, but one's in 9mm, one's in 22, and one's practically half the price of the other one because it's a simple blowback gun now. Actually, I think the 22 ones are hammer fired rather than striker fired. They're just, you can cut a lot of corners with a semi-auto when scaling it down for 22. With a revolver, there's really not anything that's different between a revolver in 22 versus a revolver in 38 or 357. So you're paying almost the exact same price for a 22 full-size revolver as you would for its, standard caliber cousin, if you will, than 38, 357, what have you. So a lot of people shy away from them, but once they get their hands on one and shoot one, they go, It's totally worth it. Like, oh my goodness, especially given how finicky 22 autoloaders could be. Like now having a gun that will feed no matter what, because yeah, you just stuff them in the cylinder. I would gotta say, yeah, those 422s, it's gotta be a gun. Once you get your hand on it, you're like, yep, no, I'm keeping this gun.
Yeah, I mean, even like the 6-shot ones. My friend Critter has I don't remember it's a J frame. It's a 6-shot 22. I don't remember the model number. It's not totally full size, but it's still pretty big for a 22 revolver, and it handles great and it shoots very accurately.
Yeah. Well, the 317 is the current version, but that's 8 shots. I forget what the 6-shot version of that. Oh, it's like the K22, I think. No.
No, it's a 6-shot J frame.
Yeah, the little kit gun.
34 model 34 kit gun.
Okay. Yep. Yeah,
and
but
the
those
stainless versions is 63.
and those ones you don't see used hardly at all either. Because again, a little 22 revolver that you can tuck in your pocket or throw in your backpack. That's why they call them kit guns. I had a bunch of people tell me, "Oh, they call them kit guns because the original ones were all bought from a kit. You'd assemble them yourself." No, that's not true. No, they were called kit guns because it was part of your kit. It would be something you'd throw in your bag for backpacking.
So the other, this is one you could probably speak on more than I can. Lightweight Commander 1911s.
Yeah, you don't see them very often, and I think that's because they are one of the ideal carry guns. Is they're in 9mm or 45. They're in a major caliber. They're a 1911. It's hard to argue with a 1911. And one thing you can always say, oh, 1911s, they're single stack, they're old, that's an older style gun. The striker fired polymer frame guns really are doing kind of a whole lot better with them. And you could say that in everything except for width. Putting a pair of slimline grips on a 1911 Commander, you are getting a gun that is insanely thin. Like you need to start getting down to sub caliber guns before you can get a gun that is as narrow as a Commander 1911. And then having it be lightweight, have it being aluminum, or in my case, scandium, or whether metals you've got. They're now as light as a polymer framed gun too. Just the ease and comfort of carrying those guns is outstanding. And I think just people get them and just go, geez, that's going to be hard to top. Like, I mean, I just picked up a 45, double stack polymer frame striker fired. It's one of those. Yeah, I could carry a whole lot more ammo on me and all that, but it's just one of those. Oh boy, that gun is so wide, and it's going to be actually a bunch heavier because it's double stack. Is that really the type of gun that I want to have my daily carry gun? Probably not.
And the last one here, super high-end guns. We were talking about this just because usually when someone has a super high-end like 1911 or even a polymer frame gun that they've had work done on, it's usually kind of customized to the way they would want it. So number one, that limits the people that are going to buy it because what you think are great features may not be what somebody else wants.
Mm-hmm. But it's also something that you're just when you go and take a gun and customize it yourself or customize it directly for you, you often find that you're going to be losing money in that proposition. For it's not a gun you can flip. I set it up for exactly how I shoot IPSC targets, or exactly how I carry, or exactly how I do this, or exactly how I do that. That might not be exactly how somebody else does it. And so therefore they're not going to be as insane about like, oh, this is the best. It's not going to be the best for them. They're not going to pay the best prices. So you're probably you might have sunk $2,000 into that Glock, into that 1911, into that M&P, but you might get 1,000 back of that.
And I mean, I don't know. I've seen some people don't get guns like totally customized to the way they want, and it's just like improvements to what may be a flawed design in their opinion.
Yep.
Beaver tails on a 1911, for instance, as opposed to having that standard tang on the back. when you get into the super, like, customized finishes and specific target grips or something like that someone needs for whatever purpose they're using the gun for, then you may run into that where, well, they're just going to hang on to it because
You might as well just hang on to it because
right.
you're not going to be able to. You're just going to be losing money and selling it. I would also argue that if someone's going to save up and buy like a Les Baer 1911, or you can't even say the Smith & Wesson Custom Shop, because the Smith & Wesson Custom Shop, while it costs a little bit more, they're still pretty affordable. But like a Les Baer, a Nighthawk Custom, a Korth revolver, one of these very, very, very expensive high-end guns, a Cabot Arms. I'm trying to think of something other than standard revolvers or all that. Is there somebody make an insanely expensive polymer framed gun? I'm trying to think. Probably not. But
well, what about that Wilson EDC? That's not polymer frame, is it?
No, the EDC 9X is that's an aluminum frame gun.
Okay.
But still, yeah, a Wilson, that's actually a great gun. Yeah, you finally decided, all right, no, instead of my carry gun being a Smith & Wesson Commander or, a Colt Commander type gun or a Glock 19 or that sort of stuff, I really want the Wilson Combat EDC 9X. And now you're going to drop close to $3,000 on that thing. And guess what? It's worth it. I've handled that gun. Oh my God. I would buy that gun in a heartbeat if I just suddenly said, you know what? I got the money for it. You know what? I'm going to part with it.
Looks so good.
Oh, it's such a beautiful design. They were really smart with that gun. But if you're going to part with that amount of money with it, you're not just going to do it on impulse. So then why would you all of a sudden have cold feet and go, I don't really like it. Let's sell it used. Exactly. So that's why I don't think you see a whole lot of those. You don't see a whole lot of Ed Brown 1911s in your used rack.
So on the other end of this, always used pistols in 40 Smith & Wesson, just in general.
Oh, just the market is dumping them. People are over 40 Smith & Wesson. And Ryan and I both agree. Yeah. 40 Smith & Wesson's lousy. It's just, my cousin was talking to me about 40 Smith & Wesson. I'm like, just don't.
It just snaps you. That's all I can say.
Snappy. It's snappy. It takes up a whole lot more space in the magazine, and downrange, you're not really doing that much more damage to the target that is worth losing a few rounds in your magazine and feeling a whole lot, and getting knocked a whole lot off target and feeling a whole lot more punishment in it, and paying more at the gun shop for your practice ammo.
But that's the thing. If you want, you can get these guns sometimes on the cheap and use your savings to buy a replacement barrel and shoot 9 in it if it's a Glock or other something similar.
Or again, just I've heard some people say, man, I should go get a gun in 40 because guess what? During the ammo shortages, nobody ran out of 40. 9 and 45 were gone. 22 was gone for months.
Tell me, do you know what the cops around you are using?
What's that?
Do you know what the cops around you are using? Are they still using 40?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The cops in my town are using 40.
Same here in my town. My state police use 45 auto. They always have. But most of the other places are using 9s.
Do you say they're doing that in HKs, or what are they using for the 45s?
They're using HK 45s.
Yeah.
With these big, ridiculous holsters. Like boxes on their hip.
Oh, crazy. Oh, is the kind that have like the strap that covers over the top of it?
It just looks so massive.
Yeah.
Every time I see a state trooper, I'm like, how do you sit in your car with that?
Well, USP 45s are pretty hefty.
Yeah, but you don't need a shoebox to carry it on your hip.
That's true. Oh man, and they've gotten rid of the Crown Vics, so now they're all in Tauruses. So it's a little bit, well, actually, the new Taurus is probably pretty roomy, so I think they're probably doing okay.
So Taurus semi-autos, I actually see quite a bit of those used as well.
Yeah,
A lot of the polymer guns.
I would argue that it would be a lot of lower end guns, a lot of the bottom tier semi autos and revolvers. Honestly, you'll see a lot of used is like Sigmas. You see a lot of Smith and Wesson Sigmas in the used rack because guess what? You hear a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, my first gun was a Smith and Wesson Sigma." Do you still have it? Nope. uh, it's one of those things of the you go into a gun shop and I mean people are nuts about the fact that we're used to the fact that oh yeah no like yeah you want to buy a new gun, yeah, be prepared to shell out like for the cheaper ones, be close to shell $450 to $500 for a new gun. For somebody that's just going into a gun shop for the first time and maybe hasn't really talked a whole lot about price, $400, that's a lot of damn money. So then suddenly there's a Sigma or a Taurus or something like that for like $250, $300. Geez, that seems a whole lot more reasonable. And then they realize why they cost so cheap.
And then Smith and Wesson revolvers, I see those all the time. And I mean, well, 38 357 revolvers too. We
Yeah.
can kind of lump those together.
Yeah, I would say 38 357 revolvers. I think we can lump that in with polymer striker fired pistols. I think you just see a ton of, again, every in my local gun shop, every single mass approved polymer striker fired pistol is in the used rack. It's just a question of when. I knew the M&P 45 was going to come to me at some point because that's why I was only going to buy it used, because I knew it was going to show up because it's such a competitive market. There are so many good 357, 38 revolvers or striker fired polymer framed guns that people are always horse trading with them. And for someone to turn around and unload one to get a different one is not uncommon at all.
Heavy recoil guns, before we wrap up here, this is one that you see them all. What was back in the day when Dirty Harry came out, you used to see, or I've heard people talk about, yeah, I'd see a case in the shop with a 44 Magnum Model 29 with a box of ammo with 6 shells missing.
Yep.
And that was it.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and you'll see like the Scandium in here in Massachusetts, the Scandium 44 Magnums. One of those will show up in the case like all the time. Someone will see, oh man, a snub-nosed 44 Magnum, and the thing only weighs like 26 ounces. Oh, that's an awesome carry gun. And then they shoot it and go, hey, look, that red stuff running down my wrist, that's blood.
I mean, 44 Magnum's not terrible. I can't imagine these people that had a problem shooting 44 Magnum touching off 454.
Yep. And another thing that you could see is the Desert Eagles. You must see. Do you see a lot of Desert Eagles in the used racks?
I think I've maybe seen one.
Oh wow! Because when I first moved to Massachusetts, and I still had my Desert Eagle fetish that I've since given up on. There was a ton. Like it seemed like every shop I went into had at least one Desert Eagle of some sort in the used rack, if not a few. And this is again Massachusetts. These are for Desert Eagles in Massachusetts had to have got in before the handgun safety roster went through, because there's not a Desert Eagle approved on our safety roster. I got to imagine I haven't seen one in ages, and that's probably because all the ones that all the ones that they finally found a home that loves them the right way, but it took them a while to find the right home. They changed hands a lot of times, and actually, no, every time I went to the Kittery Trading Post, there's always been like at least 5 used Desert Eagles of various trim levels there. It's just a gun that it seems like a great idea at the time, and then you get it and shoot it, and you're like, maybe this isn't for me. And they're really not, I would consider, heavy recoil. I don't think the recoil is too punishing on on them. Though actually, I've never shot one at 50 Action Express.
Probably more so the sticker shock of buying the ammunition.
Yeah, sticker shock of buying the ammunition and just the impracticality of it. But yeah, there's a bunch of guns that, oh man, these are super powerful. The Smith & Wesson X frames. Oh, 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. It's so powerful. Yeah, but you're shelling out $5 every time you pull the trigger, and it hurts.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions, any additions that we didn't cover, send them to the handgunradio@gmail.com, and we'll read them on next week's show.
We love listener feedback.
So with that, we'll head into the wrap-up section and close out the show. Don't forget to shop Brownells using our affiliate link. Head to firearmsradio.tv and click the affiliate link in the upper right-hand corner. Be sure to go like Handgun Radio on Facebook and share it with your friends, and leave us a review on iTunes. Listen to all the great shows on the Firearms Radio Network, and be sure to check out the Firearms Radio Network on YouTube. And Weird, thank you as always, and where can people find you?
You can find me at my blog, which is weirdworld.com, or listen to me on the Assorted Calibers podcast with Aaron Paulette, who is the national coordinator for Operation Blazing Sword and the Pink Pistols.
I don't know if you listened to the end of last week's episode, but I plugged your show.
Oh, thank you so much.
I
actually didn't get to the very, very end.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you missed out.
Well, I'm glad you gave me some love or some hate. I don't know, because I know you.
Oh, boy. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Well, it's always good to be on, Ryan.
And until next week, thank you for listening. Have fun and safe shooting.